World of Warcraft Mythic Plus Healing Guide. This is mostly aimed at intermediate players, providing tips, avoiding mistakes, and trying to build useful habits, and it is not about the promise of a weak aura that will fix all your problems. Furthermore, it is not specific to a certain season, as it should provide a framework through which you can improve at any point in the game. The video has timestamps for those of you that are interested in specific sections. For the rest of us, let us begin. First, let us define our tasks as healer and list them in the order of their importance. Doing mechanics, dispelling, interrupting, healing, utility spells, CC, and lastly damage. Next up is something highly controversial. Damage as healer is almost irrelevant. I know how every single guide likes mentioning how damage separates good healers from bad ones and other stupid stuff. However, overall healer damage is less than 5% of total party damage. And should you change your talents and gameplay to really do damage, you may reach something like 7%. Yeah, if you're a paladin or discipline, sure, damage is part of your rotation and how you heal. However, if you are a holy priest or resto druid, do not bother. Especially since the healing meta shift, where Blizzard finally buffed damage taken during Shadowlands, and nerfed key timers, which nowadays ensures that a key is timed as long as it does not have excessive deaths. I'm not saying that you should remove your damage buttons from your bars. God knows I like to keybind everything. You can do damage, especially when there is one mob left. However, if you are watching this guide, you are probably not an MDI player, but are merely trying to hit those 10 keys week 1 for Volt. Or push keys 2-3 levels below the highest done key, a goal which still about 95% of you do not achieve. Focus on healing and the key will be timed. This guide and mentality works for all but the highest keys. Dispelling and interrupts are usually more important than healing, as interrupts are free and dispellable dots really hurt far more than you can heal in one GCD. This being true across almost all key levels. Healing has its dedicated section. Next, the usually overlooked utility spells. Let's talk about Roar. This spell is a 60% move speed increase for 8 seconds. Should you press it in between pools, this saves your party 4.8 seconds of travel. Should you press it 12 to 13 times out of the 30 total possible casts across the dungeon, this saves you roughly 1 minute out of the average 30 minutes of a dungeon timer has. Considering combat time is not 100%, you'd require to increase your entire party DPS by 5%, or roughly 750k, to match the same time save. Or you can press Roar. Next, we can look at Vortex. Should these mobs be scattered, party DPS drops significantly. Using Vortex, however, ensures our DPS can hit multiple targets instead of one. This is better than PI, better than cat weaving, better than anything really. Get familiar with your class toolkit, keybind everything, and try to utilize all your class has to offer. Now that we understand what the healer does, a lot of people struggle with class and race choice. Firstly, race hardly matters. Sure, dwarf is rather good with the remove dot racial active, and most players pick it for that reason. However, ask yourself, how many times did you die without using all defensives? Troll active is really good for damage during cooldowns. However, if you watch a replay, how much downtime do you have in your already existing cooldowns? Adding one more button does nothing until you actually press your existing ones, and potential 1% DPS increase is just that, potential. Night Elf, however, is good. Being able to meld and drink might save quite a bit of time, especially if you are one of those more mana-hungry classes like Druid. Now, for classes, most of you pick what is meta this season. Listen, I understand why you do this. It hurts to feel like you're playing the bad class and handicapping yourself. However, if you check Raider.io, you might see all healers present in the highest keys. Besides Evoker, that healer is cursed to be either too good or too bad. It needs a rework. Some of you might say, but the pro players have not actually started playing.
How did I get hit? Suck my. Chris, I was not in that. There's no way. I moved.
Oh, so you're telling me that without the 0.01% that all pick the same party compositions for reasons that are alien to us, such as certain matchups or mechanics and skips that we do not perform, the game is balanced and all healers can be played at the highest level? Yeah, no. Healer balance has been done very well of late in both Mythic Plus and Raid, especially considering the diversity in mechanics, gameplay, enemies, and teams. I would much rather have a person playing the same class for 3 years, knowing it inside and out, rather than a seasonal healer who doesn't even know what half the class's buttons do and just gets invited because of class color. Play what you like. The only reason to pick this season's flavor is to have easier invites and queuing. Actually, let us talk about queuing and Raid IO score. I do not get invited. Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I can praise the balancing, the Mythic Plus reward design is absolutely garbage. Of course you're not get invited. There is a guy with 3k Rio there applying to 10 keys because he's farming his Biz Trinket or Vault. I got declined from 10 keys even though I had all 11s done. 2 keys with your guild, slowly add pugs that you like to your friend list, and build up a player base to play with. I always list my own key and pug every single key I push, and in the first week I managed to get rank 12 overall resto druids this season, and with the highest being rank 2. Mind you, this is before any of the actually good players started going, and I am in no way, shape, or form the 12th best, or maybe not even the 100th. Helping guildies, other games, and real life takes too big of a toll on my time, and I quit 2-3 months into the expansion. So, no, I am not a pro player, nor would I be one even if I had the time, but I hope people would rather attack my arguments rather than the person. Anyway, list your own key constantly and do not chase gear or specific dungeons that you are missing. Minimize your queue time and keep playing and improving your skills, which, unlike eye level and trinkets or Rio, stays with you through seasons. I have 0 items from Raid, 1 crafted item from last season, no real enchants, no biz trinkets, and it works relatively fine. Again, 5% increases are not that big. Stop simming. As far as add-ons go, as healer we cannot sim via raid bots, but questionably epic is decent. For the rest, it doesn't really matter. Big Wigs versus DBM, Voodoo versus Suf, Milk or Cereal first, Skada or Details. The differences are minor that you should pick what you want, not what people recommend, with the exception of the cursive. For the love of God, enable mouse over and do not use the cursive. It is important to have an UI fit for your needs. For example, as a resto druid, I need to track 100 HOTS, some which are randomly applied by Convoke or tier set. Therefore, having these big and out of the way frames ensure I do not have to move my eyes away from the center of the screen and no important space is occupied. Again, I encourage you to take some time each week to further customize your UI. One thing that I would like to say is to avoid overusing weak auras and keep your UI clean. Too many people have DBM tracking a certain enemy spell, then have a weak aura that also tracks that. Then they no longer see their spells and they have another weak aura to track that. Then they have another weird weak aura that tracks their mana or health because the clutter is too big and they can no longer see the default one. If your UI looks like this, clean it. Every single thing you add demands a very limited resource, which is your attention. Besides the already mentioned add-ons, Macro Toolkit helps create macros, Prat, Bartender, and Sexy Map to be able to move and change the chat, bars, and minimap to gain some extra space. Warp Deplete is an M plus specific add-on that helps with a lot of things. Maybe a weak aura that helps tracking spells. And lastly, OmniCD that tracks party interrupts and defensives to decide healing priorities. Let's talk about actual healing. First, healing priority. This is where OmniCD comes into play. Even if you are not yet familiar with what all these things do, if AoE comes in and one guy has all defensives and potions up, and one does not, you prioritize the one without. Next, always cast something. I do not care if you are moving or doing mechanics or whatever. This is the number one problem for most healers. They are not yet used to healing, a task which takes too much of their attention. And when a mechanic shows up, they cannot do both, either ending up failing the mechanic or no longer heal. It would be nice for you to be able to plan ahead and use proper rotation and line up instant casts during the movement. However, that comes with practice. To start with, ensure that your rejuvenate, or class equivalent filler, is on an accessible button and just constantly press it, even if you have brain freeze. Next is a complex subject, damage profiles. The math I'll bore you with is weird, but the conclusion is rather simple and easy to apply, so bear with me. Okay, for future reference, we pretend our party has 10 million health and the tank 20. The boss does 50 million single target damage over 3 seconds every 15 seconds. How much do you have to heal? You might be thinking, if the fight requires 1 million HPS, like this one, all I have to do is pull 1 million HPS. Or I have to heal 5 million HPS during the 3 seconds and then nothing for 12. Wrong. You need to heal 6 million during the 3 seconds and then 9 million during the 12 seconds downtime. Damage usually comes in waves, forcing you to heal a large amount and then doing little for some time. What you have to heal is the difference in health between damage taken and current health, and then slowly fill up health bars during downtime. This is worth mentioning as I see far too often healer CDs or DPS defensives pop because they were too low, even though no damage was coming their way. Okay, let's translate this entire thing. Looking at DPM next spell is as important, if not more, than looking at player health bars. Use a healing cooldown during or before a boss damage spell, never after. Understand that healing required is equal to damage taken minus current health. If a player uses a potion or defensive for 5 million or 30% damage reduction during the aforementioned example, he no longer requires healing during the damage phase. Now, Blizzard is starting to get a bit more creative with damage profiles, which I like. However, this one again complicates things. In Floodgate, the third boss has a constant healing requirement through Vine's dot and another overlapping dot. The fish, Bubbles, has an upfront damage when applying a backwash followed by a dot. Regardless, the rules mostly still apply. Lastly, builds and talents. People will tell you that this trinket or that talent is better. I love improved stampeding roar because I press that button like a maniac. But if you are not used to it, you should not pick it. Maybe you like astral influence for extra range because you are not as good at keeping track of your allies' positioning as other people are. Or maybe you feel like you can forgo a healing trinket and pick one that buffs your allies. Maybe you would prefer playing Holy Priest instead of Discipline, or Boomkin instead of Cat Weaving. If you feel more comfortable with it and maybe even play it better than the other choice, why not? Sure, if you're a professional player, you need to choose what is optimal and then force yourself to learn it. However, why copy this? What they are doing might not even be better in lower keys, and we do not have the time to actually learn that. Regardless if you want to be good at the game or not, you have a job, school, things outside of this. You want to be good or good enough, not an MDI player. And should that be the case, this is not the video for you. Simply put, a properly executed build of a class you are comfortable with in an area you are experienced in will outdo any copy-pasted talents even on the best class with optimal gear. This is not to say eye level does not matter, merely that it is overemphasized and far too often used as an excuse. To do a small recap, I believe healer damage is overrated and utility spells are underrated. Race and class are balanced enough that it does not matter much outside of Night Elf being good and Evoker needing a rework. You should try to list your own key and add friends along the way. UI minimalism and personalization are key, and improving your skill is more important and lasting than adding weak auras or items. Use cooldowns when damage is incoming, not when party is low HP, prioritizing those without defensives. Find your own playstyle that you can consistently execute. Overall, healing and tanking are more complicated roles with no clear rotation or path. There is no substitute for experience, as on the fly adjustments need to be made constantly, and panicking during low HP is not allowed. You could almost always have done something better to keep someone alive. However, that is usually true for the rest of your party as well, as their defensive are as important as your cooldowns. Keep playing, keep trying to improve, and hopefully this video helps a bit. There should also be a guide on raiding as well as some for specific healers to provide detailed advice rather than theoretical like here. However, that is all I have about Mythic Plus healing, and I will see you next time.
Și toți castează.
Afară, afară cu aia, afară, 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 afară.
Ah,
Cum ați
deci asta le
Bravo,
faci.
Eu am
boss.
crezut că e
Nu, nu
Common
e obvious.
knowledge.
Nu,
pain train.
chiar nu e.
Pain train, pain train, pain train.
Intri?
Repeat.
Da.
Plus?
Los coaie.
Los, dar tu unde ești?
În los
Ce mă,
coaie.
nu-l vezi?
Mamă, și le-a pus și fucking, haide.
Hai că, hai băieții.
hai că bag
Le-a
pula
pus
să-mi
bani.
bag picioarele coaie. Dracu,
Și-a bătut.
cheia asta.